So did you guys hear this story? I mean, I've been following it because Gene Hackman was an amazing actor. And this story is just so weird. Gene Hackman's huge mistake before his shock death, his major battle over his $80 million estate looms. Now, as I read through this, I'm finding out that a lot of the people that he had listed to take care of his estate, should he die, the trustees,
Yep.
Mr. Hackman did pick successor trustees, but the people he picked all passed away before he did, says one individual, which really brings up the whole issue of being proactive, as they say. It's a common proactive step in high-stake estates, especially when multiple deaths or complex family dynamics are involved. Somebody clearly did not update the estate or the will, the living trust for a long time. I don't know about you guys, and I'm going to be joined now by Chris Bowman and Dean Haskin. Gentlemen, welcome. I don't know about you guys, but I find that with my attorneys, they're great guys. I have a litigation attorney, I have a intellectual property attorney, I have a corporate attorney, and then I have my tax attorney, and then I have an accountant. And I find that with all of them, I have to drive the bus. I'm not intimidated by their degrees. And I tell them what I want, what I expect, what I'm looking for. I listen to them because they're the expert in that field. But there's many times where I felt like, no, we need to go and do this, and here's why I think we need to do this. And they're like, well, that would be good. If that's what you want to do, we'll go do that. I mean, there's many times when my estate plan and everything, it was driven by me, you know. Have you guys experienced that too, that you've had to drive the bus with a lot of these professionals? Because clearly somebody here was not driving the bus. They left it up to the professionals, and the professionals, you know, I don't know what they did or didn't do, but somebody should have been screaming and hollering to family members, to somebody, to her, his wife, that right now, if both of you die, you're in big trouble because all of your people have died that are supposed to run your trust. But let me start with that first question, Chris. Do you find that too many people let their professional experts drive the bus instead of them driving the bus?
That's actually one of the problems, right? You got to advocate for yourself, number one. And number two, when you put together a plan, it's not a one and done deal, right? There's changes that happen to your life, especially in estate planning. And this isn't the exception, it's the norm. Michael Jackson did the same thing. He's paid money to have a whole estate plan put together and never funded it. Howard Hughes died intestate, you know, without anything in place. And Joe Robbie, who owned the Miami Dolphins, had a fire sale the team and the stadium within 9 months of death to pay the federal estate tax. So this isn't normal. This isn't abnormal. Gene put a plan together. He had successor trustees in place. In this case, it was his wife, Betsy, and she passed. And then there was nobody to update. He didn't have any backup successor trustees. And then what happens when you don't have a backup? You go to probate.
Yeah, and it says he picked all people. The people he picked, so plural, more than her, they all passed away. It makes you wonder if the plan hadn't been updated in 10 plus years, Dean.
Well, that's exactly it, House. And it just speaks volumes. You know, look, it's terribly unfortunate what happened. And you're right, Gene Hackman was a tremendous actor. It just goes to show you that this is not a problem that it's something that we all are going to have to deal with at some point. It talks about actually in the article that you have there that a lot of people look at estate planning and things of that nature as being only for the wealthy. And one of the things they stress in the article is that, no, this is for everybody, because if you don't have a plan in place, then if something adverse like this occurs, you're going to have to fall. You're going to basically fall into the same situation where your stuff is going to be put before the court. And yeah, in his case, there's multiple changes of the people who were listed as his trustees or heirs, the people who were supposed to be taking care of things. I mean, everybody around him was dying. His big problem was he outlived everybody to some extent. And you know, House, this is why the timeliness of when, you know, we started working with Chris and brought him on board and brought him on your show so that, you know, your viewers and people who have been following you for quite some time now could hear this message and hopefully take advantage of it. You know, I think back to when we were talking earlier, we started working with you 16 years ago, telling your supporters, telling your listeners and viewers that they should be diversified and buy gold, put some gold in their portfolio as a hedge, as something to protect themselves with. And when we did that, the price of gold was $833 an ounce.
Yeah.
You're looking at the price of gold today over $3,000 an ounce. And, it's already, in fact, up this year, I believe, somewhere around 16%. And this is no different. It's a different area, what Chris is talking about as far as estate planning and taxes, but it's the same thing. You're encouraging your viewers to be supportive of you by way of contacting people like us so they can learn about this. And those who have done so, it's been tremendously beneficial. And I swear, I hope that people really see this message. We couldn't have asked for this to have really played itself out the way it did, to have such a high profile situation that speaks to what this is now, I think, our second or third program that we've had on this topic with you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it looks like he had not updated his will since 2015 in the article. What's very interesting is, look at this. The timing of the couple's death is important because under the New Mexico law, had they died within 120 hours of each other, their deaths would have been classified as simultaneous. This may have impacted how the estates of Hackman and his wife were divided. But given the investigators found Hackman lived for 7 days after his wife, based on his pacemaker activity, those provisions would not apply. And his estate may be divided among his beneficiaries other than his wife, experts said. Explain this to me, please, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, when you die kind of intestate, which you don't have any, and he didn't leave anybody there, then it goes to the courts to make those decisions. You want to, at all costs, especially with spending the money to put a plan in place, which he did. He had all the documents in place. Everything was good. He just didn't follow up and update it accordingly. And when you don't update it and there's no beneficiary in place, or there's no successor trustee in place, then the courts will decide where that money goes. And I heard that he specifically left his children out of it. Now it will open up the door for the children to contest the estate, and the courts will decide. And to tell you the truth, I'm not an attorney. I've worked on probably 2,200 estate plans with attorneys for our clients. And I think that probably children will have a good shot at maybe getting some part or all of the estate. So,
yeah, well, so the word the word of the day here is preparation and follow-up. That's two words: preparation and follow-up. Prepare your documents, but then follow up and keep them updated. Correct?
Without question. Like I said before, it's not a one and done. Your successor trustees may change. Your powers of attorney may change. Your estate plan is not just a will or a trust. It's powers of attorney for healthcare and financial. It's living wills and your intentions of life support. And it's making sure Michael Jackson put a beautiful trust together and then never funded it. So all of it went to probate.
What does that mean, never funded it? He never put any assets in there.
Never put any assets in it. His home wasn't in it. His property wasn't in it. He didn't title his bank accounts in the name of the trust. He didn't put the trust as his beneficiaries of his retirement accounts. And then what happens? The courts, they leave it up to the courts to decide where all that goes. And certainly, if you knew my story, I told it on your show the first time I was on it. My father died in a tragic motorcycle accident. He was a executive president of a worldwide conglomerate, and you think he would have everything together, and unfortunately he didn't. He died in a motorcycle accident, and we spent 3.5 years in the probate courts. So I can tell you from personal experience, having all those documents in place, and we had to make decisions on turning off life support, where to bury him, how to bury him, whether to donate his organs, and then spent 3.5 years in the probate courts. All could have been avoided with the right planning.
Gosh. All right. How can people, I guess 602-807-1411, if they want to get a hold of you, or prospectwealthadvisors.com, right?
Absolutely. That's great. We'd love to talk to them.
How about you, Dean? Want to make a closing comment?
I also like to say, House, everything Chris said is spot on. I mean, the funny thing is, like Michael Jackson, it just shows if you do not have the right people who are in place, who are taking care of things for you, and that's where, I'm so grateful for the relationship that you and I have forged over the years, where, without a shadow of a doubt, when people contact us, they're going to be taken care of. And I know that that's a very important thing to you, and that's why we do take care of them. And same thing with Chris. He knows without beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is an issue that everybody needs to take care of. And they can be confident in knowing that in contacting Chris. Chris knows that this is something that you believe in him, and you know that the people that are watching this program who know you, when you direct them to Chris, they're going to be taken care of. So
if someone, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if someone has even, I don't want people to think you have to have a big estate. If someone has a house, they've worked their whole life to pay off, and they have a house, and they don't have it in a trust and have specific instructions of where it's to go, be sold, how the funds are dispersed, then they've got a problem too. It's going to end up where they don't want it to go, or the family members who have to go to court are going to end up spending a lot of that money that could have gone to helping with their grandkids' college, or helping with the retirement of their child who's now maybe themselves an older adult. The wonderful things that it could have gone for to help the family is now going to go to attorneys. So even if you don't have a big estate, but you have assets and a house that's paid off, you better be thinking this way. And you can do this for as little as $1,000 for them. Is that right, Chris?
We do. And we have done for 20 years now. So.
And Howse, to that example you just gave with Howse, the example of the house, a lot of people, they are just living their life and they believe, okay, well, if something happens to me, that house will fall into to my wife, my spouse, or vice versa. If the spouse dies, if the wife dies, it goes to the husband. But heaven forbid, what if they're both in a car wreck together? Now what? Now neither of them are alive, and if they don't have the right things in place, where does that asset go? And maybe they have kids or grandkids that now are stuck in court trying to sort that mess out. And Lord knows if they even have money to go to court and sort that stuff out. There's so many issues with it, and so much of it is avoidable. It really is completely avoidable for everyone.
I have a trust, and a lot of people in our audience do as well. And I was talking last year to a guy. He's an older gentleman for sure. But this guy has hundreds of acres, not to mention his business, which is big. And he's got hundreds of acres on top of it. And I said something about my trust, and he said, tell me about your trust. And we're talking like we are. I said, you don't have a trust? And he said, it just goes to my wife. And he named his wife. If something happened to me, it goes to my wife. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what happens if you're both killed? Because they drive around in a car together.
That's right.
And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a mess to watch. A big business with hundreds of acres and some property and real estate. And this guy who is very successful, I mean, he would have a high net worth. And he hasn't even thought about setting up a trust. I mean, actually, he said he thought about it. He said, I should do that. I've been thinking about that. I'm like, what are you talking about thinking? You are advanced in age and you have a lot of assets. There should be no thinking here. You should have pulled the trigger on this a long time ago.
Only 19% of people have an estate plan. So 81% of the population doesn't have an estate plan in place. So that just goes to show you how many people ignore it, or maybe they think death they don't want to talk about it. But in doing so, you're creating tremendous amount of problems, taxation issues, problems with your state, transition of assets. And it, like Dean said, it could all be avoided. And you said earlier in the show that you have to advocate for yourself. These people aren't being proactive about calling you up and saying, hey, I saw that Betsy, like in Hackman's place, I saw Betsy, passed away, or you became incapacitated. The second that there is incapacity or dementia, then that trust, there should have been things in place to update his trust, and she should have gotten together with the lawyer immediately, because she would have had to step in as his power of attorney anyway and start to make decisions for him. And that's when that estate should have been updated for sure.
Really sad. All right, well, don't let it happen. And the bottom line I want to stress is you can help people do this for as little as $1,000.
That's correct.
Okay, 602-807-1411, 602-807-1411, prospectadvisors.com.
By the way, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I didn't want to miss the fact.
Hey, you know what? We're even. We've now interrupted each other twice, so we're even.
I'd encourage people that are tuned in and listening to the show. The phone call is free, so you may be saying, "Well, I don't want to spend $1,000. What am I getting for $1,000?" You don't know what you're getting. You don't know what you're not getting at this point. But make the phone call, have a few questions answered, and then, if nothing else, at that point you want to make the decision to not do it. So be it. I don't know why you would, but the phone call is free, and I really would encourage people to contact Chris because, again, this couldn't have been a better example.
Indeed.
What happened with Gene Hackman.
Absolutely. Let me show you, by the way, our new website, Worldview Gold. We just launched that last night. Worldview Gold.
Wow.
All about Swiss America. My relationship with them for 16 years is there, and it gives all the information about Swiss and what you get with them. So I wanted to show this to you, Dean, and then they go down here and they fill out the information and get the free no obligation packet. Let me ask you on a side note here. Where do you think gold is going this year by year's end? I'm not going to hold you to it, but just a guess. Where do you think it's going?
No, well, here's the beauty of that. And, the podcast that I do, a few of each week when we talk about gold, the beauty of where the market is right now, there are so many other people saying what it's going to do. I just quote them now. But the low end for the year is, I would say, predominantly for people who kind of are weighing in on it, about 3,500 an ounce when you're looking at roughly 3,000 right now. And there are some, though, that are talking about, as aggressive as 4,000, 4,500, and even more than that. There's a lot of moving parts in our economy right now. There is a lot of vulnerabilities in our economy right now. Central banks are buying it up left and right. Governments are buying it up left and right. Institutions, individual investors. I mean, it's just, it has all the ingredients for what you want out of a market that's going to improve or increase in value. So, I think at 3,500 is a very comfortable range. And I got to tell you, like we told people in the beginning of 2024, when it was 2,000 an ounce, that it was a great time to buy. And a year later, you're looking at it basically at $1,000 more an ounce. So it's on the move, and I don't see that stopping, House.
Yeah, and putting gold in your IRA is another great option, right?
It's an excellent option. People have been doing. It's one of the main focuses or main areas of interest people have right now because they've worked hard. Your IRA is your retirement account. They worked hard their entire life. They don't want to see what they put away just evaporate. And there's a lot of evaporation going on in our economy right now.
Mm-hmm. And I want to stress, you're the CEO of Swiss America. The company's been around since 1982. You're a debt-free company, correct?
Correct.
And you guys have never missed a buyback since you were founded in 82. Is that right?
Correct. I would tell you we have the most comprehensive buyback in the industry, in fact.
What does that mean?
Many people in our business, they are more of they'll sell you the product. They'll buy it on an as needed basis or as they're able to buy it, if you will, depending on who knows what, meaning like what their financial situation is at the time, if they've done enough sales to, do some liquidations. We don't have any caveats there. If somebody needs to liquidate a product, we're here, and it's a very, very quick process through an IRA. In fact, we do a lot of that through people who have to take distributions, et cetera. And even though they have physical metal, they literally have payment in hand within a day. So it's one of the more liquid and soluble type assets you'll find in that regard.
Absolutely. Worldviewgold.com to get the free no obligation packet, and then call Chris, folks, to find out about getting your finances squared away so you don't end up like poor Gene Hackman and his wife and their estate and their kids and family and everybody. Ugh, what a lesson for all of us. As always, gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, House. Pleasure.
Thank you, my friends. All right, again, folks, also check out worldviewgold.com, our brand new, beautiful website. Find out about taking custody of precious metals or putting it in your IRA. And it'll sit in a vault in Delaware. And then you can take a taxable event at some point if you want and take custody, or cash it in as you need and get a check. You can find out all the details about this. Go there and fill out the information. Get the free packet right there. Just click more information. It'll bring you right to the bottom where you fill out the form, send it in. No obligation there. Free, no obligation packet, worldviewgold.com.